The only thing worse than being stuck at home is being stuck at home without coffee. We can't let that happen. Browse our selection and order online. From sweet to tangy, hot or iced, we have something for you. White King Coffee, because every cup makes a difference. Cheers.
Good Saturday morning, everyone. Welcome into the cafe as White King Coffee presents Coffee and a Conversation. Brian Hagberg with you on your daily local. Got myself a fresh cup of Dragon's Roast I picked up at the cafe this morning. You can stop on down in the plaza across from Tops, get yourself a fresh cup, get it one of these special laser engraved tumblers, get it filled with your purchase when you bring it back. Get 50% off your refill as part of the White King Coffee Mug Club. While you're here, you can pick up maybe a hand pie or there's one cinnamon roll left today. I'm looking back there at it right now myself. Other great food options available right here as well at the White King Coffee Cafe. If you can't make it down to the cafe, not a problem. White King's available on DoorDash. Just place your order, have your favorites delivered right to your door. You can also order your favorite roast to brew at home online at whitekingcoffee.com. This is Coffee and a Conversation. Our special guest this week, it's Michelle Belleau, going to give me a little bit of lesson on homeschooling. Like myself, you're a transplant. We're gone for a while and have moved back to the area, and you're part of the Liberty Cooperative.
Yes.
and homeschooling. So explain a little bit just generally how the homeschooling works for those who may not fully understand.
Okay. Well, homeschooling for the state of Pennsylvania is one of the most highest regulated states, New York and Pennsylvania. But basically the state illustrates or lays out different subject matter that we're required each year to go over with our kids. So we turn in objectives of what we're going to teach as long as it aligns with what the state has laid out. And we turn that into the school district along with an affidavit or a unsworn declaration that we are capable. We graduated high school and we are capable of teaching our children. And all of that's required before we're able to start.
And so it's not like in that you kind of go, okay, so, my kid's in third grade, and so as a third grade level student, they should be taught X, Y, and Z, and at this level, and this you have to get that all approved.
The state breaks it up into elementary, so you have K through 6, and then you have 7 through 12.
Okay.
So there are different subjects that are required once you get to the secondary level.
Gotcha.
So there's more notation that's required once you hit the secondary level. Elementary is a little bit looser.
Yeah.
But there are specific subject matter that we have to accomplish every year with our students, our kids.
And how kind of rigorous is that process initially? Like, when you decide, okay, hey, homeschooling is the right decision for my family, that process of just getting started with the state, what all do you have to go through? I mean,
the process isn't so hard itself.
Okay.
It's just a couple of pieces of paper, and the most intimidating would be the objectives.
Yeah.
But again, I use the HSLDA, it's the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and they break it down state by state, and it's just very specific on this is what you need to be in good standings with your state. Okay. So I keep to that very closely, but it's really about the parent and the family and how you want to go about homeschooling. My nature, we tend to be a little more intense. So for me, it was a lot of work.
Right.
We did a ton of research, but a lot of families take like an unschooling approach, and that would be kind of to clear their children's head of any structured learning and just kind of be loose and free. And I would say this works a lot better for the elementary student than the secondary. That there's all of these parameters they have to meet, but it depends on the family. So every family's experience is going to be a little different than the next one. But for us, yes, that was a very intense part because now I'm committing and I'm responsible for my children. Yeah. Luckily, both of my daughters are elementary. My daughter's oldest is ending her or starting her last year of elementary, but it's given me 3 years now to kind of figure out and fine tune what I'm doing so that when she enters secondary,
you've got the
Got it going.
familiarity built
Yes.
up, and it's not like,
We've got
oh
a
my God,
rhythm.
what am I doing?
We've
Yeah.
got a good rhythm going at this point.
And so, I mean, just for you personally, what was it about homeschooling that made that the right choice for your family?
I mean, honestly, how it started has changed. We moved here from California.
Mhm.
Education became very political.
Yeah.
And we came here, and it was towards the end of COVID, but we started to feel those same political vibes that we did in California around our kids. I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong.
Right.
There's fantastic teachers in the district, but I was tired of my kids being in the crossfire. And like, well, you're figuring out how you're going to operate. I've got 2 kids that need an education. And I didn't feel like that was the most important thing. So we pulled them.
Yeah.
And we started working that. But then now after 3 years, I'm realizing my child doesn't need to be in school for 6-7 hours a day. For instance, this week, my daughter, she was doing math, and it's been very easy. I'm letting her skip problems.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? There's 9 more exercises in this chapter, but why don't I just give you the test? If you can score an A, we'll skip the chapter.
Done.
She got an A. So we skipped the chapter.
Right.
If she was in public or private, we couldn't do that because there'd be other kids that need those 9
you
lessons.
can't.
And that's fine. They should. But for my kid, she didn't need this particular chapter. So we were able to move on. So that freedom, we have come to really like that.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Well, yeah, and I'm sure. I mean, it you don't have to structure it at 8 a.m. We have to be sitting down and reading, and then okay, 3 o'clock the bell rings and go do whatever. You could kind of it gives you that flexibility, to vary the day to day and make it maybe a little less monotonous.
And again, I craved some kind of structure, so we do have somewhat of a structured day, but we don't have to start at the beginning of the day at 7 a.m., 6 a.m. If the kids want to stay up late and read books, stay up late and read books, and we'll catch up. You can wake up at 8:30 or 9 o'clock the next day.
Well, you were kind of mentioning as we're coming in, getting set up about, sometimes we're a little bit late risers, and that, again, that's that flexibility that allows the structure that fits your family, as opposed to necessarily.
And that's really the one thing about homeschooling that people need to understand is you're not with everybody else anymore. You don't have to adhere to exactly what every other student is doing. You do what's right for your family. And there are ways that you can overlap with other families and you find common ground and your kids can have some of those peer learning experiences, but it's really about what works for your family. And everyone has different values, different priorities on what kind of education is important. And that's, again, another thing that we found since we started doing this is it gives us the freedom. We have artists and musicians in our family, so they have all kinds of time to practice and explore that part of their lives.
And so you mentioned, you came to the decision where you wanted to pull them. Now, did you decide that like in mid-year and then wait until the end, or how did that whole process work?
It was, I would say they had gone to school for 4 days in the school year.
Okay.
So it was fast.
Yeah.
It was fast and I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But we took that month and I found some online programs, OutSchool, those kind of things to have my kids doing something productive while I just researched and researched and researched. And so by October, so that happened September. By October, I had some structure going. So
but so I mean, just like that, that's how quick the process can be. I have talked to people that have talked about, we thought about homeschooling, but you got to go through all this stuff, but it's really not.
You don't. But also, I mean, I took the initiative. I knew, the family that I grew up next to, hardcore homeschoolers, amazing people, and I knew that, and I knew she was still there, so I called her immediately. Will you talk to me?
Yeah.
Yes, I'll talk to you. So she gave me her experiences, and she said, this was much harder in the 80s and 90s.
Oh,
you have a whole new world with the internet.
You've got a whole internet you can access that's right at your fingertips.
And she gave me the main homeschoolers in the area. She's like, you need to talk to this person and this person. And so I called them. I called all of my oldest daughter's former teachers from her preschool in California, from her kindergarten, from her first grade, because I was the Tuesday reader mom. So I still had those relationships. I'm like, what do you do? What do you do with the third grader? What do you do with the kindergartner that can't read? Help me. What do you think about this curriculum? So I just utilized all my resources as much as I could that month to develop some kind of plan. And it's morphed
Right.
every few months as
Yeah.
we go, but that's how I started. Is just reaching out to people with experience.
And you talked about the number of other homeschool families in the area. It certainly seems like an option that, especially since COVID, has become immensely more popular, for lack of a better word. People going, they didn't like some of the hybrid and remote learning things that were required because of COVID regulations, and started homeschooling, and then decided that that's what they wanted to go with. And how many of those families now are you interacting with, and are people starting to reach out to you as knowing, hey, you're a homeschool family?
Yes.
How does this work?
I mean, it has exploded in the past. I mean, again, we just moved here 3 years ago, so I didn't really know anybody as an adult. I hadn't lived here in 25 years or so I'm still meeting people for the first time as an adult. But my phone is ringing a lot more than it was. So we started with 3 or 4 brave kids, and this year we had over 50 students come through our cooperative for either whether they were regulars or they came for a couple events to share time with us and learning.
So explain that the Liberty Cooperative, right? Is you guys, and I happened to see you out. I think you were in the municipal building checking out a tree a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, that was our Cellborn reboot.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with the Cellborn program of the 90s and 2000s that they did throughout the county, one of retired teacher came to us and she gave us all of her old notebooks, all of her binders. So one of the amazing moms that comes to the co-op regularly, she redid the binders from the 90s and 2000s for modern day, and then we gathered a group of 40 plus kids and went out and we sketched bugs and trees. We brought in the forestry. We went to the fish hatchery. Chapman's Dam sent people from the conservation district in, so we had all kinds of Piper from Allegheny Outfitters had a connection with the river and with nature. So the kids have nature journals, so we did that. But that's part of our cooperative.
So what exactly is the cooperative, and how did that get started?
The cooperative is, my husband and I own a building downtown. That's where we live, and his business is. And then the bottom floor, we have a bookstore that rents from us. And then when the computer store moved out, we all of a sudden had space. And I had been teaching my kids at the kitchen table with their friends coming over, and now we had space. So we started thinking, why not bring this downstairs and invite more students in? And again, everyone has their own form of learning and what's important to them, but there's a lot of crossover. For this year, we took on elementary chemistry, for instance. So there's not a lot of beliefs where anyone would have any controversy or conflict. So we thought this is a great subject that we can bring kids together. So I did a lot of research, and I found a curriculum that works from 2nd grade through 5th grade. So we gathered kids from that group, and they would meet with us three days a week at our classroom on Liberty Street. And we'd go through and experiment a lesson 3 days a week with these groups of kids. And every day was an experiment. But again, they got to learn together. They were, teamwork and STEM and all of those things that they wouldn't get if it was just mom at the kitchen table.
Well, and that's, when you hear people talk about, kind of the pros and cons of homeschooling, obviously the biggest negative that people always bring up is that social interaction aspect. You're not with a group of your peers all day, every day. But so now you've got a place now where they can get some of that. And
that class, for instance, the chemistry, I taught that. That was just it's parent led. I'm not a teacher. We've had other moms come in. One mom was teaching ASL. So her mother is deaf, so she's learned her whole life. She's been able to teach. She's not a teacher, but she's a parent, and she came in and she gave that service to our kids. On the other side, I've reached out in our community and found certified teachers, retired teachers, and substitute teachers, and they come in, and we have a charge for that, but we all gather and collect funds to pay this teacher to cover some of the things that might be a little more than we want to handle, especially the high school level. We had a teacher come in to do high school geometry for some that was just beyond some of the parents' scope. Help. But on the
mathing for me is not. Nobody want me teaching a math class. I say that,
but you get to a level where, and especially high school, these kids are trying to graduate. You want quality, and you want a clear understanding. You're willing to get the funds together And if there's like-minded families that have the same needs, costs a little bit less. On the other end, the elementary might be things that we can handle as parents, but what parent wants to argue with their child to like do composition, to write, to use proper nouns and adjectives, and so we outsource. We hire that out. We bring in a certified teacher. She has them writing books and all these things, and then it's really the parents' decision on how much further you want to go from there. If that's enough, you're happy that your kid wrote the book, or maybe you want to go further and you want them to dive into the grammar and whatnot. Again, it's up to the parents, but we pay the teacher to get that process started, and they typically don't argue with her. They'll argue with us all day long. So
well, and I guess that kind of, you know, my youngest daughter is playing t-ball, and you know, people ask me, "Oh, are you coaching her?" Nope, don't want any part of that, because
it's different.
It's you know, different. There are special people that are able to manage, you know, coaching or teaching their own kids, and it takes a lot. And but I mean, is that one of the things that you kind of have to get through initially? Of okay, yes, I'm mom, but I'm also a teacher, and you know, this is not necessarily as you're, you know, grading like a writing assignment. You know, this is not me being critical of you as mom to child, but as teacher to student. Does that take some time to?
I think that's another one that depends on the family. I see a lot of moms that are really good at that, and they can fill both roles. I'm terrible at it. I'm absolutely terrible at it. I feel like I'm going to be too critical, and like I'm your mom. I love you, and but as your teacher, which is why I find as many ways for those hard subjects to outsource, so that the constructive criticism is coming from someone else.
No, and that's
not just me.
And that's why I tell people, like I told my wife from day one, they get involved in sports, I don't want any part of coaching. Like, I'm gonna go sit in the stands and clap and keep my mouth shut, because it's, you know, and especially at the time, you know, when I was just doing exclusively sports, right, there was this kind of expectation of, well, this is what you do, you should no, that's because that's what I do, and that puts undue pressure on them, and I don't want any part of that. And again, not to disparage anybody out there,
and some parents can do it, and I'm in awe. That's not me.
And I've worked very closely with a lot of them, and you know, a couple of them have been extremely successful as parent coaches, you know, within the district. And but it takes a special person to be able to do that, and I give them all the credit in the world for being able to manage that and do it in a way that, you know, it doesn't strain that relationship. And speaking, you know, of the district, and you're talking about getting into now that secondary level, how closely do you have to work with the district to ensure that they are meeting all of the requirements for graduation and things like that, so that they're on track? Or
I mean, honestly, you don't have to. I think our district is very wonderful to work with. They're very supportive. Questions get answered. If you need curriculum, they're very willing to pass that on, as it is our right. But some districts are very hard to work with, and they make homeschoolers work really hard to get what we're supposed to get. We don't have that problem here. We have wonderful people to work with. That said, it's really the state. At the end of the day, it's the state of Pennsylvania that decides what those requirements are. So, and part of homeschooling is what we have to do is by June 30th every year is meet with an evaluator. And there's a list. You can go online and find a list of evaluators. We have many local ones that do that. We host evaluations at our classroom, and we have an evaluator there. But that is where you come in with your objectives that you submitted to the district at the beginning of the year, and you develop a portfolio of examples of everything your child did. And you bring that to the teacher, or your evaluator, which is typically a retired teacher, or a former, or someone that's still teaching in the district, because there are heavy requirements on whether or not who can be an evaluator. But once you find one, it's great to get to know them, because they get to know your child, and then the evaluator looks at what the state requires, looks at what the portfolio that you have provided from your child, and they would make those determinations if you were successful in whatever year you're trying to get through.
And you know, one of the other things we've seen a lot, I know some people have had some issues with like truancy and stuff, because you know, when it was COVID and we're just starting to get back into the buildings, and you know, hey, if your kid coughed once today, keep them home. And you know, there's some struggle, I think, getting back into, okay, when do I need to keep home, and when, you know, is it okay to send? But Are there requirements that you have to show that there is instruction going on for a certain amount of days?
Yes, we are required 180 days a year, or I think it's 990 hours, depending on how you want to track it. My family, we do it by day, but we keep journals and just mark off the days. I always keep a very detailed list, but again, that's just who I am. There other families, you don't have to do it that way, but you do need to mark every time that you have a school day. So 180 is required.
But now with that, like, for example, if you went to say, hey, we're going to go down and go to the Carnegie Science Center or something like that, that still counts as like a day of construction or instruction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we took our kids to Charleston, West Virginia, to see Ringo Starr. We took the Living Beetle exemption for the day, but we happen to be doing ancient history, and they have these burial mounds in Charleston. So we took them to those, and we discovered, and so we turned a rock and roll trip into at least one school day.
Music theory, into
history.
And
ancient history. So there was,
and I'm sure Ringo will appreciate being mentioned in the same breath as ancient history, by the way.
That's bad. I didn't mean to do that, Ringo. Great show. He looks good.
Yeah. Oh, good. That's well, I've always said, he's gonna be the last one, I'm sure. So, but how much more flexibility do you have to do things like that? From a homeschool perspective, where it's, hey, you can just get up one day and decide, right?
I mean, enormous flexibility. As long as you hit all those subjects and get those 180 days, it's really up to you. And that's kind of, you start to learn your kid a little bit better, and what is it that you want to do in your life? Which direction are you going? Are we going the personal finance route, or do we need to keep you on a calculus track? You start to find that out, and you start prioritizing the areas that are going to most benefit them in their future.
And I wanted to circle back a little bit about the cooperative, and if somebody's out there that's homeschooling and they've kind of been on their own, if they wanted to come be a part of that, just give me a call.
Give me a call. The Liberty Co-op at gmail.com. You can always email me there. We have a Facebook page. I list the schedule, everything that we're doing there, and I can't really advertise what we're doing because it changes based on the needs of who's there. We developed a high school group, and it was only because I started this because I had a kindergartner and a third grader at the time. But one of the kindergartners had an older brother that was a high schooler, and he was not going to finish up there. It was not a good environment for him. Personal matters. It didn't work out. Kid needed a diploma. We had to help him. So in comes the high school. 3 years have gone by. These kids are graduating this year. So now, if we don't have high schoolers next year that have needs, we won't have a high school group. But if there are needs, we have a network to help those people. But elementary, that's happening. Middle school, that's happening. I've got nephews and nieces and my own children.
Well, your sister just recently moved back to the area too, right?
So and a couple, they each have one that are homeschooled. So that's motivating me to help boost the middle school range. But again, it just depends on who we have and what they want, or what they want to do as a group. So we do our own thing, but maybe we want to learn U.S. history together this year. And
I know you had mentioned the kind of the polarization of schools in California, but obviously you're from the area. But what was it about coming back here that was so appealing for your family at this time?
I think it's just the family. The extended family is here, and it's just that the cost of living here is so different than California. We felt we could give our kids a better life, and we'd have more options in coming here. But again, just the politics, it starts infecting your school, and it's like I just want my kids to learn elementary chemistry. I want them to know the difference between an adverb and a noun, and too much was infiltrating that. And I just wanted the focus to be giving them the best foot forward and loving everyone. So, and when we came back here, we started feeling those same feels and I don't think it's like that anymore, but I don't know because we're not
because you're not there.
But I don't want to go there anymore. We want to get close. So after they did 4 days, we're like, we'll handle this.
Well, and I'm sure now it's been 3 years? Is
Yeah,
this
we
your
just
3 year?
completed
Yeah.
the 3 years.
After 3 years, you probably kind of got the hang of what you're doing,
And,
right?
and that's the thing. Like, we always have an open mind. That if the situation changed and our child really wanted to go back and we liked it, I think the Career Center is amazing.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of our high school students would go to the Career Center in the morning and then they'd come and get their geometry and their ELA at the co-op afterwards. But we'll see what happens. I think there's a lot of great things in our district, but this works for us right now.
And how much has the co-op really kind of expanded what you've been able to do with the kids? I mean, obviously, you kind of have your own areas of expertise, but I'm sure other parents and other families bring a whole different set of experiences and expertise in. So how's that expanded?
It's a work in progress. A lot of the expansion is just reaching out to our community and asking them, will you come in and do this? Or can we meet you here? And a lot of times we hear, like, we used to do this all the time, but we can't get into schools anymore. They can't, there's too many liabilities to take the kids out of school to bring them there. So when we ask them, will you come to our place? We have 30 kids that would love to learn about orienteering. They're like, yes, we would love to be there.
Right.
So it's, the community really has stood up, and anytime I call, it's yes, when can we come? So,
and it seems like maybe that's kind of a byproduct of the way generally education has shifted more to a testing or assessment based as opposed to an experiential or a combination of, because again, I mean, back when we were in school, it felt like we did more, field trippy type things than what my kids are experiencing right now. And so is that kind of another aspect of homeschooling?
I mean, I feel very much so. And even with the Selborne project that the reboot that we just did, what an amazing program. It blows my mind that it was taken out of the system, because the kids are outside, they're connecting with nature. It's good for their mental health. It's attacking ELA, science, history, all at the same time, and art as well. It's all happening at the same time, and they're working together as they're outside. What a beautiful thing. And to not find ways to make that happen is discouraging. So, but instead, for our kids, we're not going to allow that to be an excuse. We're just going to make it happen. So,
well, and I mean, it's starting to just state regulations and costs and things.
Exactly,
and you're seeing,
and again, and this is not to attack on anybody. I think that they're doing the best they can with what they're given, and there are a lot of rules, and it's tough. But by being a homeschooler, it just takes us out of that. We don't have to worry about liabilities and regulations and state and misbehaved children and that. We just we do our thing.
Following IEPs and GIPs and stuff like that. I mean, it's not any specific district's fault or shortcoming. These are things that they have to do.
And if you have 30 kids with all different needs and real needs, how are you going to serve everyone? That's really hard. And so I feel for them. I hand it to them. But at the same time, I got to take care of my children. So for us,
do you have to do things like they just had like PSSA testing? Do you still have to take part in that?
The state of Pennsylvania requires state testing 3rd grade, 5th grade, 8th grade.
Okay.
So I have a 5th grader this year. Right. So myself and Ann over here, we jumped through all the hoops to become.
She's laughing back there, by the way.
But we jumped through all the hoops to become administrators of the test, because she has a daughter and she can't administer for her daughter. And I have a daughter and I can't administer for mine. So we could help each other. But then we opened it up and we ended up having over a dozen kids come, either in 3rd, 5th, or 8th grade, to fulfill their required testing. There are online options available, but a lot of us parents feel like you get click happy by the end, and I'm so bored, I'm just clicking to get it over. We'd rather, if they fill it in with a circle, then hopefully they at least read the question. So
there's something about being a kid in school, and you got to fill in the Scantron, right? I mean, it's just you have to experience that.
So, but again, so parents know you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to find a place to physically take a test, but we do offer that for the parents that do want to see that happen.
And now, how are you able to, or are you able to incorporate things like arts and music and drama and some of those things that, again, budgetary and state restriction constraints have, reduced what's available within the district?
Well, okay, I immediately reached out to the conservatory
Mm.
because they're right there, and
Right.
just giving an idea of campus. It's only a block or so away from our classroom,
Mhm.
and they developed like a homeschool music in the mornings on Friday. They have a bunch of different ensembles that really stem from us saying, "Hey,
Right.
we're out here."
Yeah, right.
So we've done that. We brought people into the classroom for art or music. We have
Yeah.
some parents that are very artistic that come
Mhm.
in and do art projects. A lot of our history curriculum has art projects within them.
Right,
So I
yeah.
find the artiest moms to come in to help run
Yeah.
that, because that is not me.
Me
But-
either.
and
And I
one-
feel bad because all three of my kids love to make
Art,
and create
yes.
and draw, and I'm just like, I can't help
me
you.
neither. I'm terrible, but I'm lucky to be around lots
Yeah.
of moms that are like that.
Mm.
So, and one thing about homeschool curriculum too is it's written by teachers.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be a teacher. The smart
Mm.
teachers wrote down exactly what you have to do step by step in the majority of homeschool curriculum. So that is really helpful for a novice
Yeah.
like me to
Right.
take someone else's hard work and I just have to follow their instructions.
Mm. So, and again, it's not like you were wanted to be a teacher,
Oh no,
right?
no,
and then
no.
decided, this was just, hey, we got to do what's best for our family. And now you're learning an additional skill kind of on top
Absolutely. Well, my background's in music business.
Yeah.
I booked concerts across the country for over a decade
Yeah.
before this, but starting to find out that working with rock and roll bands and little kids, elementary ed,
of that. Kind of the
not a
same.
big difference.
No, yeah,
So-
kind of the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah.
Herding cats.
Right.
So,
Well, and speaking of music, I'll have a big role in Warren County Summer Music
Yes.
School coming up here
Yes.
in June, and had a chance to sit down with Denise right at that
Denise.
table right over there a couple
Awesome.
weeks ago.
Our
And,
amazing director. It's our 35th year.
yeah, and that's just blows my
Yeah,
mind
and
because
if
I
there
remember
was
going.
ever,
right?
as we've been talking,
Yeah.
art and music has become lesser in
Right.
the district. And again, there's not enough time
Yeah.
to do everything that needs to be done.
Yep.
With all the kids, art and music it's taken a fall.
Mhm.
We have our program's 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's all art, music, dancing, theater, and it's just awesome.
Yeah.
The Beatty has an electricity to it. Everyone's so happy to be there. Just the sounds, the colors.
Right.
It's just a really fun place to be. So
Well, and for you as a former summer music school student, what was it like
Yeah.
for you to come back
Oh,
and see that it was still going and now to be part of
it's
it?
awesome. I mean, when I moved back, it was the first thing I did was
Yeah.
call Dr. Bauer, who was still there, and
Mhm.
said, "Betty, I'm back. Give me something to do." Is
Right.
the one thing that's always had a piece of my heart. She's
Yeah.
like, "Well, I don't have a position for you, but I'll throw you on the board." So I was on the board, but then the registrar retired.
Mhm.
Can you take her job? And then the
Sure.
financial secretary retired. Can you take her job? too?" So it's
Yeah.
I've kind of created my own, but I love this
Right.
place. This
Yeah.
is my favorite thing. I always wanted a reason to be able to come back to Warren just to work on
Mhm.
music school, and
Yeah.
now the universe has corrected itself.
Well,
I'm
and
here
you
now
get you
in
get to use that music business and
Yes,
right
yes,
and apply it to
to the music school.
yeah and a program that's just it seems like it just continues to grow. And you said already you've got 90 some
Yes,
odd
we
students
already
signed
have
up right
90
now.
kids signed up now.
Yeah.
Last year we had 144 total. So some of the classes are already full. So if you want to sign up, do so soon
Mhm.
to get the
I think
the top
actually, you know what? I
classes.
think I still got the. Let me take a look here, and I might still have the. Yeah, it says QR code. I don't have the QR code, but right there, register at wcsms.org,
.org.
and you can
Lots
get
of
yourself signed
classes.
up for summer music school, and like Denise was saying, that the ability to have busing and pick
Yes.
kids up, and it's not just for kids; adults are signing
adults,
up.
fourth graders now, current
Yeah.
fourth graders through adults. We provide transportation.
Mhm.
We will feed them breakfast. We will
Yeah.
feed them lunch. They will have a full day of art and music
Mhm.
and send them home at
Yeah.
12:15, 12:30.
and not just art as like drawing and stuff, but visual art. All kinds.
Animation. And we even put in an animation too. A stop motion animation class was sold out every single year.
Yeah.
So many kids wanted in it, but now enough have taken it. What's next?
Yeah,
So they keep
Right.
asking. So I'm
Yeah.
asking these. Mark Robinall,
Mhm.
he helped with stop motion last year, and he's awesome.
Yeah.
He just gave me his list of supplies that he needs for all these amazing puppet that
Yeah.
he's making for the Animation 2 kids. So he's got a great program for them this summer.
That's fantastic. And again, I mean, I was probably one of the first or second groups that was able to come through, and
we're the originals.
Yes, and it was it was one of those things that I only did 2 years. I just had other summer obligations I had to take care of, but those 2 years were hugely beneficial, and I played all through high school, and it was in band and stuff, and and I don't think I would have been had it not been for the availability of something like summer music school.
And even just explaining to kids, you don't have to become a rock star. You don't have to, this is something that you're having a bad day. If you know how to play piano or guitar, it's great for your mental health. It makes you feel good. It connects you. And there's just something that happens in your brain when you're connecting with the strings and reading the music. A lot of good things happen there.
And I love the fact that they get the opportunity to play with Philharmonic.
And the side by side.
Yeah, side by side. Yes. I mean, that's just phenomenal. I mean, again, just an experience that wasn't available when we started,
younger,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know Andy's gone down and covered that event a couple of times, and always just comes away just.
June 27th.
June
27th in the street at the fountain.
Yeah.
We'll have dancers, we'll have our singers, and our musicians will sit in with the Philharmonic.
Fantastic. So, well, it is a busy day across Warren County today. I know, I know for sure. I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to be heading out to Johnson Transportation. They're celebrating 100 years, and Free Books for Kidstown has the Interactive Kids Festival. The bike rodeo's going on downtown. The rain seems to have held off, which is nice. Yeah.
Tonight.
Oh gosh! Wow. Well, there was one. There was actually one last weekend. I stopped. We got the Applebee's for dinner, and I stopped to pick it up and saw a group of kids coming out, and I said, those are some fancy dresses for those kids to be walking into Applebee's. Must be a prom. But lots of stuff going on across the county today. Take advantage of it while the rain's holding off for sure. But Michelle, I don't want to take any more of your time. I'm sure you've got stuff you want to do with your family today. But I thank you very much for coming on and just kind of giving us an overview of homeschooling in the area. And again, if people have questions about the Cooperative, they can reach out to you or find the Cooperative on Facebook.
Sounds great.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
That'll wrap it up for this week's edition of Coffee and a Conversation. I want to thank all of you for joining us. Hope you all have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And remember, if you change one life, you change the world. Cheers.
You know what would make that better? A cup of white cane coffee.
Wow, that really is great coffee.
White cane coffee, because every cup makes a difference.
Here at Casella, we make temporary dumpster rental easy, offering services that are perfect for construction, remodeling, special events, or other short-term projects. Casella dumpsters are available in a wide range of sizes to fit any job. Our dedicated customer service team will help you choose the right size container and service level for your project and schedule hassle-free removal based on your specific needs. The right size dumpster, when you want it, where you want it, removed when you say so.